Hey guys, this is Will Ospreay.
And I'm Bea Priestley.
I think the world right now would kill for some normality.
And we just really want to stress that this is not about one of us, this is about all of us. And if everyone can please just stay indoors and keep your friends and family safe and try stay positive throughout all this.
Love you all, guys.
And this is where Don and Sue go out for a pleasant evening.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Lucha Pod. Today, Kosta.K teams up with founder and head coach at the London School of Lucha Libre, Garry Vanderhorne, to discuss all things lucha. Enjoy.
How you been, man?
I'm good, as well as can be expected under the current coronavirus COVID-19 disastrophe of the world.
Yeah, it pretty much sucks. It's everyone's struggling with finding stuff to do. Like, obviously, you know, we're not in the Resgal anymore doing training or shows or anything like that. So it's hard for a lot of people just in that world, let alone the rest of the actual planet itself.
Well, I think when people are used, like such as us, especially, you know, with the extended group of family that we have that trains, we used to training 3, 4, 5 times a week, resting weekends, doing shows, doing promos, socializing inside and outside of that. You don't realize until it's taken away how much you do it and how important it is. And that kind of sense of family and community is one of the main things I think people are really struggling with, because they're sort of stuck either on their own or maybe some people are with their family members. But, you know, family is what you make of it, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I was thinking earlier, like I know I spoke to you briefly on the phone yesterday or maybe the day before, but it's like where we're at the gallery so often, like 3 days a week just for training, or whether it be for a show or whatever, just even popping round just because you're in the neighborhood or whatever. It's like you're so used to seeing people that now it's like I feel like I haven't seen anyone in forever, when in actuality it's only been a few weeks, but it just feels like a crazy amount of time.
Yeah. Just having that anchor and that base as well, the Resistance Gallery being, you know, the London School of Lucha Libre is there, the Eve Academy is there, Lucha Britannia, Project W, the Triple L shows under Lucha League, IPW running shows there. God, the list goes on and on. There's just like loads of little promotions doing great wrestling shows. We were booked solidly, like the amount of dates that we had left was zero. We literally had everything, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then this happened, and it's just like, bam, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like, not to dwell on too much of like the negative for too long, but like how have you been finding it, like filling time? You've had stuff to do?
I personally took this as like, okay, there's nothing that anyone could do about it. I'm just going to relax. I'm going to like not do anything, not do any training. I'm still stretching. And just like for the first time in like probably my life, apart from when I was hospitalized a couple of times, this is the first extended period of time where I haven't done any crazy physical activity. So I'm just allowing my body to heal, because I've got multiple injuries that are long term. So it's actually, I'm just psychologically, I was like, okay, this is great. I'm just on holiday now. This is a weird holiday.
Yeah. No, I think that's the best, like, in a way, that's the best way to do it. Like, it was funny, actually. I saw a meme earlier today of someone, I think it was like a picture of Kevin Hart saying, you wanted the weekend to last forever. Well, now you've got it. And how do you feel?
Yeah.
But you know, just silly stuff like that. You gotta laugh in a way, because if you dwell on it too much, it's not going to do you any good. So yeah, you got to just relax. I know a lot of people out there are kind of going the opposite, where they're like finding comfort in fitness and stuff like that, and going out for a lot more, like trying to exercise as much as they can, home workouts, things like that. But yeah, it's different for everyone though.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I've been a sports professional like all my life since I was a kid, and I'm 48. It's like this is the first time ever that I've had actual like a over a month where I've not done any intense physical activity, and I feel great for a change.
Yeah, no, well, that's good. Like you can finally relax your body.
Yeah, I think it's good for wrestlers as well that are fully on it, and nobody wants to stop wrestling. So you work through injuries and you hope that it'll get better and stuff. And you don't necessarily give yourself time to heal. This is giving a lot of people a nice time to heal mentally and physically, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's a lot of people out there that have had. Like, I was talking to Will about it actually the other day, and he said as much as he just wants to get out there and wrestle. Like in a way, this has been a bit of a godsend because he's had loads of not like major injuries, but he's got a load of like little nagging minor injuries and stuff, and now he's actually got the time to just kind of rest and relax them.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Obviously, we're close with Will, and we've been his trainers for a long time. And even though we don't train him now, we're still his friends. And it's just like, Will, slow down. Like, look after yourself. Like, take some time, heal, stop doing the crazy stuff. So this enforced sort of holiday, little wrestling holiday, is going to definitely do him good.
No, for sure, for sure. So one of the sort of like main things we'll get to in a bit is like to do with like obviously how Lucha came about and everything. But I think it'd be good to like tell people sort of how you came up in wrestling, because I think a lot of people
don't know any of that. No one wants to know.
Well, I mean, just a quick brief overview, because I think a lot of people are aware of like because I think Greg's obviously done a few podcasts and stuff in the past where he's told his story and stuff. I don't think a lot of people are overly aware of like your background in wrestling and stuff. Because obviously your career got cut short due to like a lot of really bad injuries. So like, I don't want you to have to like go on about it. I feel like you have to go on about it, but like if there's any, like if you had to sort of summarize your career in wrestling and how you've kind of like adapted and gone with rolled with the punches that have kind of been dealt to you, like how would you sort of summarize that, I guess is my question.
Yeah, the bullet points are wrestling fan forever. Got involved in it later on in life. Couldn't believe that it was as bad as it was when I got involved in it. Was training with a really good bunch of people that most of which became very successful. The likes of Paul Robinson, Charles Samuels, Marty Skull, Greg Burridge, Stu Sanders, that kind of lot. And we all came through luckily at the same time, and because I was older and I had a different sort of perspective on things, I was just like, wrestling is so much better. There's so much good wrestling that could be, and there are good wrestlers in Britain. There just needs to be more, and it needs to be produced better, and stop trying to be a WWE copy at that time. So I was just a big fan of Lucha Libre and the masked wrestlers and superheroes. And I was like, let's see if a smoke and mirrors thing will work, and we'll take the W word away and we'll put the LL word in. And bam, first show sold out, Shoreditch, queues around the block, magazine coverage, press coverage, blew people away. And it just snowballed from there. With regards to my own wrestling career, when you're training, trying to be better and better and better, and you're running shows, it's very difficult to be in the show and run the show, etc., etc. And then just when I was kind of getting good, I shattered my calcaneus, my heel, and my ankle in a triple threat match with Paul Robinson and Marty Skull. Did something, was a low ceiling, didn't get enough height, did the jump, landed badly. And I'd never really recovered confidence-wise from that.
Yeah. So yeah, that was when would that have been? That
2008.
Oh, okay. Yes, so that's over like well over 10 years ago then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like from there, obviously, you'd already been running shows at that point, I guess, with Britannia. That started in 2006, right?
Something
like that.
Yeah, I think I started Ramwari in 2004, think I probably started training in 02, 03, early 2000s. It was, I don't know. I lose track of time now. Getting old.
That's fair enough. But like you said, like, unfortunately you did have that injury and you weren't able to kind of get back in the ring, but you ended up doing something that a lot of people aren't able to do. Like, you still kept yourself involved in wrestling, and like you were running shows, like you said, you were selling out shows all the time, and you still do that today, which is something that, again, I don't think anyone quite understands how like cool that is, and like how unique that is to be a wrestling show that's been around for as long as Britannia has at this point, over 10 years, and it still sells out every month.
Well, I think because we did something different from day one, and we've kept it we've kept it organic, even though it's my show and my initial idea. There's been lots of people that have input into it. I started the show with Tony Two Tops, who's co-host on the show now, and it was, it is my baby, but a lot of people have put a lot of input in, and I'm not one of those dictatorial people that sort of doesn't go with other people's ideas. I'm like, the whole point of a creative art is that you let the artist be creative and you give them a framework in which to work in, and hopefully if you got the right people and the right nurturing environment, then they're going to create art and it's going to be great. And that's usually what happens, like month in, month out. And we were doing Download Festival and the Bizarre Ball and huge events when there was only 8 of us in the show. There's now like 24 or 30 people in the show. So, but then again, back then, wrestling wasn't a good word. People didn't admit to liking wrestling.
Yeah,
it wasn't in vogue at that time. It was just the diehard fans, but general public, it was just like, oh, wrestling, no, what's that? Oh yeah, I used to watch that as a kid. Big Daddy, rubbish. That kind of thing.
Yeah. So like you said there that Tony obviously was one of the original people who helped you with Lucha at the beginning. Who else was kind of around there at the beginning points of Lucha?
Excuse me, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat.
That's all right.
It was me, Paul Robinson, Terry Fraser, Marty Skull, Shah, Martin Harris, Sheamus, of course. We were with Sheamus just before we got signed, and helped him get signed because Greg was training him in Ireland at Irish Whip Wrestling, and then came over to England, and we put him on shows and helped him with his character a little bit, and then he got signed that year. Who else? You're putting my brain to the test.
Were Liam and RJ originals? They come in later.
Liam was one of the very originals. Yeah, Liam Howard, Estupido, the Human Torpedo. He's brilliant. RJ came in later on. He was an FWA person.
Yeah,
and had started like maybe a year or two before me, I would imagine.
Okay.
So he was a little bit further along. And the FWA was the kind of only sort of decent indie promotion at that time.
Yeah.
Who else? Can't remember. Oh, of course, Phil Bedwell.
Oh, yep.
The mighty Phil Bedwell. He was Bradford W. Bush, the bastard grandson of one of the most hated presidents in the world at that time.
I think anyone can kind of guess who that is. So going from like those originals, like that's a pretty hefty lineup right there. Like you said, like Paul, Marty, and Shah, and like all of those guys, like every one of them's gone on to do something like it's something really like something big or something like of notoriety in the pro wrestling business. But then like you look down like the scale from then to now, like it's not stopped either. It's like it's just continued through Lucha to like we've just had more and more amazing people come through. Like obviously you know, we'd be remiss, like we already mentioned him earlier, but like Will obviously is probably like the number one guy that when people think of Lucha in London, they think of Will Ospreay because he's like the biggest name to come through from us at the moment. Even though there are a lot of other a lot of other names like that are big right now, like Will's probably the first like huge guy to like be trained at Lucha and then go on to make a big name for himself.
Well, we only polished Will. He's a unique talent unto himself. We can't, Will's an amazing human being, and he is, he's like a real life Spider-Man. He's got superpowers, and it was just channeling those superpowers into the framework of professional wrestling, and knocking off the rough edges. But if you're doing something, if you're an artist and you're really passionate about being good at something and you want to be the best and you want to get where you want to get to, you're going to seek out other like-minded people, and you're going to go, well, what's these people doing? What's this? Why is that like that? Why is that like that? And it's the inquiring mind that leads you to the group of people that are usually the best people to go to. And very quickly you'll find out if they're not, or if it's not for you. And I think that's where, we win, is we've got a great pedigree of great people, and the passion behind it and the artistry behind it and the physicality behind it and the psychology behind it is fantastic. And that's what Greg and I have come together over the years and just gone, we need to put this back in to British wrestling. Let's make British wrestling great again. There's some great people, but there's not the scene. It's fractured. It's all over the place. We're not taken seriously. Let's make Britain be taken seriously again, and we'll just put our heads down and we'll just work. And that's what we've done.
Yeah, no, and it shows as well through the hard work. And like we said earlier, like Lucha, it obviously not right now because we're in lockdown, but when even before this and everything, whenever we have shows, like they always sell out pretty much without fail. Or if they don't completely sell out, they're damn near sold out, which is unheard of in most British wrestling promotions to have that go on for as long as it has, and every month as well. It's crazy.
Humans need to be entertained, right?
Yeah.
And you need to give people value for money and good entertainment. And I just happen to use wrestling and Lucha Libre as the vehicle for my entertainment machine to give people enjoyment. That's part of the service that you do. It's I think other wrestling promotions fall down when they're just wrestling for themselves and they're not wrestling for the public.
Yeah.
And that's where we've been successful, because the characters, the stories and the matches and stuff like that, it's meant for the audience, and the audience love it. And of course the audience are going to keep coming back for more and more and more, because it's different every time. You're not telling the same story. It's funny, it's irreverent, it's rude, it's spectacular, and it's death-defying. And you don't know that guy under the mask might be Will Ospreay again, or it might be, it's like Cara Noir, Thomas Dawkins. He's been good for years, but it just took him a little while just to kind of work into a different thing, get to a right state of mind in his life before he was ready to go, oh yeah, I know who I am now. Hello world, bam. And everyone's like, whoa, who's this guy? He's amazing. What's he? Well, of course he is, but he's, that didn't happen overnight. He's been good long. Sometimes it takes the world to catch up with you rather than you catching up with the world.
Yeah, for sure. And like, speaking of like sort of like big characters like a Cara Noir, so I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. If I brought a casual wrestling fan to you who was interested in coming to a Lucha Britannia show, and you said to them, right, look out for these 5 characters because you'll love them, who would be like the top 5 like Lucha Britannia characters that you would always have to say, you have to see this? I mean, I know obviously you love everyone because it's your show and you wouldn't use them if you didn't, but if you're like, just from a personal enjoyment standpoint, who do you think people need to see?
So wrestling fans will be listening to this podcast, hopefully.
Yeah.
Non-wrestling people won't be listening to this podcast because they're not wrestling fans.
Sure. Yep, good point.
Wrestling fans will find good wrestling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Non-wrestling fans won't. So how do you get a non-wrestling fan to become a wrestling fan? So I'm answering your question with a question. My answer to my own question.
So for me, the way I would get a non-wrestling fan to become a wrestling fan is genuinely, and I mean this, is to take them to a Lucha Britannia show. Because I actually remember the first time I came to a Britannia show. Obviously, I'd been around wrestling for a couple of years at that point, but I'd never been to Britannia before. And I remember Phil Emery, who was Mojito in Britannia for a while. He was a good friend of mine. He was like, "Oh, if you're coming down, let me know." So I came down to watch. I remember about 5 minutes before we got there, he said to me, "Just do yourself a favor. Everything you currently know about wrestling, just let it leave your brain. Just don't think about it. Just go into this as a random human being who's going on a night out." And I was like, "Okay, I'll try, I guess." And then within about 5 minutes of being there, and like the first match started, and all, I just remember seeing Freddie Mercurio. And the moment I saw that, I was like, "Oh man, this is awesome. This is crazy. I don't know what this is, but this is just madness." I don't feel like I'm at a wrestling show. I feel like I'm at just, I don't know. I feel like I'm just in an escape. It's cool, and it's a lot of fun. So that would be, I guess, what I would usually, exactly. That would be how I would recommend to a non-wrestling fan to start getting into wrestling, is to watch shows like a Lucha Britannia, which don't portray themselves straight up as just a standard wrestling show.
Yeah. The flip side of that is, because I've never aimed it at traditional wrestling fans are slow to the party. So then they only find out about it in retrospect when someone like Will Ospreay becomes super famous. They're like, "Oh yeah, well, he was in Lucha Britannia for 3 years as Dark Britannico and as Neo Britannico, and Cara Noir, he was Pavo Real for 2 years, honing his gimmick and producing 5-star matches month after month after month." People sort of real smart mark wrestling fans are a little bit slow to the dance when it comes to Lucha Britannia, which is strange because the wrestling on it is absolutely phenomenally good. The characters are phenomenally good. The storytelling is phenomenally good. And you say character-wise, you show anyone in the world Cassius, they're going to be entertained.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, hands down. I don't understand how he is not a multi-millionaire international star in every medium, not just wrestling, because he is absolutely like star quality, 100%. And his wrestling is fantastic. His work is brilliant, and he's a tremendous human being. And it's happening for Cara Noir now. It's again just a craftsman, an artist, a phenomenal performer. And there's this horrible guy called Hombre del Roca, and everybody loves to hate him. He's fantastic. His wrestling is solid. His character work and his mic work is just off the charts good. He's definitely one to look out for if anyone knows.
I don't know who that guy is, but there's just something about him. Like I've heard through the grapevine, Garry, and I don't know if you've heard the same thing, but I've heard he's a stallion in the bedroom. That's all I'm saying.
Oh no, I heard he was like a chihuahua in the bedroom.
You're talking to the wrong circle of people. That's why.
Okay.
No idea. We'll find out one day. You know what? I might get him on, see if he'll do a podcast with me.
You should. Do you know what? He'd be hysterical. He would be. I mean, it'll be a crazy podcast. It might not be very long, but it'll be very funny.
Yeah, I feel like he wouldn't give me much of his time. He's a bit of an egomaniac.
He'll say, "Hey, no podcast for you."
That would be it. That'd be the whole podcast. He'd come on, drop that line on me, and then leave. Oh dear. But no, that's cool though, because obviously those are just. Sorry, carry on.
As I said, unless there was drugs and beer involved, then he might hang around.
No, he's straight-laced, isn't he? He's a straight-laced luchador. No alcohol in lucha. That's his whole MO, right?
Says that, but I've seen him knocking back the tequila after the show.
Yeah, to be fair, I have heard rumours. I just didn't want to kill the geezer's gimmick. But like, obviously, like you name drop them three there, but like again, that's not to take away from anyone else because obviously Britannia's got it's just so many just amazing over the top characters, which like, and again, I was talking when I was talking to Will the other day, we were both saying like wrestling just as a whole needs more characters, and like Cassius is obviously like the first one that would pop to my head as well. Cara Noir Tom like straight away as well. Guys who we've got like right now as well, like Disco Diablo's a great example. Like it's just so good and so entertaining. And this is the thing I love about Britannia as well. When you've got a really good baby face on Britannia, they are a good baby face because they will get cheered because, like you said, a lot of the crowd there are just they're not necessarily wrestling fans, so they're just people who want that escape and want a great night out on a Friday night, and they do get invested in the characters. So it's not like like exactly. A WWE crowd where like you've got someone trying to be a babyface, but the crowd are booing him because we don't want to cheer you because you want us to like you, and they're not trying to be funny. It's just no, it works.
I go in with the mindset that everybody is a wrestling fan if given the right circumstances. So I just try to, and it's a long, hard, sort of mostly thankless task to kind of like rewrite the DNA of wrestling in Britain to kind of go from scratch. Right, Greg, how do we do this? We've got a few good guys, but we need to impart this knowledge, and people need to be taught properly, and they can't just be taught that this is a lockup, this is a hold, and this is a suplex. They've got to be taught about movement, about character, about deportment. How to hold a crowd, how to hold a mic, how to be still, how to be silent and still command an audience. All of those things. That's why that's how you rewrite history, is by creating the school, and the school creates more talent. We did the school. Over 10 years ago, we started the school thinking, we'll do one night a week. If we get 10 people, that'd be great. We're up until recently, we're open almost every day with classes every day with like 60 people a week training. It's crazy. Of course, you do that, and it's a really hard, long, painful, expensive task. But then you set the bar, then other people have to rise to that bar, and they're like, oh, so we have to up our game now. Oh, look what they're doing. Oh shit, and they're producing really good results. Well, we need to be doing that as well. And then somewhere along the line, the WWE started doing a performance center, and the performance center kind of what Greg and I had been doing for a few years beforehand in a smaller way. And then it's like, oh, well, that kind of validates us. They're doing exactly what we're doing, teaching people body movement and roles. And then they do promo classes and character things, blah, 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 as we all know. And it's kind of like that sort of like set a staple of what a wrestling school should be. But up until that point, it was like, here's a few moves, off you go, learn the hard way on the road. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, I think again, like to your point, like a lot of places for years, like you'd get taught what to do, but not necessarily why or how, like, you know what I mean? So it's good that Lucha does that. And to be fair, that I think there's a lot of schools out there that are now doing that, which is good. So like that's
we stop studying, right? I saying I'm on a wrestling holiday. I'm watching Buster Keaton. I'm watching Harold Lloyd. I'm watching Are You Being Served Again? I'm watching Sunday night at the London Palladium and old comedians and old mime artists and stuff. I'm watching loads of movies. I'm reading comics. I'm reading graphic novels. I'm getting all my toys out and rearranging them and looking at and why do I like that? What is it about that I like? It's the color scheme. It's the stature. It's the way they're standing. It's the flashy bit here. It's like, being a wrestler is everything, encompasses all the different things of everything.
Yeah, and it's funny actually. You talk about you were just talking there about artists and stuff, because that actually works into the next thing I was going to mention was something else that we have on Britannia that's been around obviously for years now at Britannia is the cabaret acts and the burlesque and that sort of stuff. So like what what made you think of kind of like intertwining that with the pro wrestling show that you were presenting at the time when you first came up with that?
I wanted it to be an immersive experience. So when people come into the venue, you wasn't walking into a sports hall that's, got a few seats out and bad lighting. I wanted to come into a world where you're there and you're immersed in that world, and you're going to see characters, and those characters are not all wrestling characters. Wrestling isn't all about wrestling. Wrestling is not much about wrestling. It's much more about the stories and the characters. And why do people revere the Attitude Era so much?
The characters.
Yeah, but specifically, what about the vignettes, the backstage stuff, the Vince McMahon in the hospital bed, and Stone Cold coming up and hitting him with a bedpan?
Yeah,
it's those bits. It's the character things. It's the little skits. It's the comedy injected with the violence, and it's the variety show. It's the old school British music hall variety show, and that's what excites me. Putting not just the nuts and bolts of being a great wrestler, but just being a great performer. And then if you're a great wrestler and a great performer, those skills transfer, and then you can do movies and television and theatre and et cetera, because you're well prepared for lots of different eventualities.
Yeah. And in relation to like a lot of the acts that we've had on Britannia over the years, like I think you're probably the best person suited to giving them a bit of love because obviously you know them all better than most of us who are on shows of them. But who would, if you were to like, I suppose plug them, give them a bit of love, I guess. Like who would be like your main people who you would say to people, if you're ever at Britannia, you need to see this act?
Well, it starts with Benjamin Loosh, the host.
Yep. He
is amazing. He runs his own show called the Double R Club. And it's a Lynch-esque, David Lynch style cabaret thing. It's been running for over 10 years as well. It's like Lucha Britannia and the Double R Club are the two sort of staples of the London nightlife. And he's a proper host with proper comedy, with a proper look, with an amazing ability to ad lib. He writes stuff beforehand, so he's got all his bits down, but he can also ad lib as well. And then you've got Tony as his side man, Tony Two Tops. That glues the show together. That makes it. So you start with that. That's the cabaret sort of beginning, and then you get someone like Lolo Brow, who's one of the greatest cabaret acts that you could ever see. Yeah. You've got people like Marnie Scarlett, just completely unique, weird, make their own costumes. People have never seen stuff like this before. Unless you're in a certain niche demographic, you won't have seen this stuff. And then people see it and they're like, whoa. And then they go to work on Monday and go, I believe I went to this crazy show and it was wrestling. I didn't even know I liked wrestling, but it was fantastic. And then I saw these cabaret acts and they come out in rubber and giant eyes, and then someone stuck needles in themselves and created wings of their arms, and I didn't know what was going on, but it was amazing. I got totally drunk and had the best night of my life.
Yeah. No, that's it. That's basically Lucha Britannia in a nutshell right there. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, like obviously all of those people, like they're all so good and so talented. Like you're right, they do provide like a great service to the show, which is why I kind of wanted to give them a little bit of love there, because I think a lot of the time when I'm going to have like wrestlers on the show, we're going to mainly talk about wrestling. So I figured, yeah, it'd be good to show a little love to the guys the unsung heroes, I think, of Britannia, who make the show, help make the show what it is.
Let's not talk about wrestling. Let's talk about great performers. Let's talk about Buster Keaton and how amazing he was. That's what people
unbelievable.
That's and Jackie Chan. Just watch Jackie Chan. Guy's amazing. Guys. Amazing.
All right, well, here you go then. So obviously, and we'll talk about the London School Lucha Libre properly in a minute as well. But if a trainee comes up to you and says, Garry, I want to learn, I want to become a better character in the ring. I want to become this or this or this. Who would be like the top 3 or 4 people, whatever, that you would say, go and watch this?
Charlie Chaplin, great dictator.
Yeah.
Just amazing. These days now, because we've got, you know, the world at our fingertips, there's no excuse for not coming up with creativity and learning stuff and borrowing a bit from here and a bit from there and creating your own unique aspect. And even if it's parody or if it's serious, you could take stuff. There's 150 years of captured, logged, historic entertainment to choose from, and you could take stuff that maybe no one else has noticed or seen before, and then work that into your gimmick and character.
Yeah. No, there's so it's an unbelievable that how much we can go online and watch now. Like, not even just through like subscription service, just go on YouTube. You can watch it. There's literally everything. Like, there's nothing you can't find on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Japanese stuff as well. That's 70s Japanese live action superhero stuff that's great to watch. The stuff that Power Rangers came from, you know, the like Mazinger Z and Ultraman and like stuff like that, where you got, you know, monsters and robots and things, and you look at the costumes and fine. This all predates Power Rangers by like 20 or 30 years, and it's great stuff.
Hello, this is Fug from Lucha Britannia. Now, if you're like me, you like nothing more than going down a pub with your mates, necking a few pints and finishing up with a lovely old scrap. And unfortunately, in these times, that's not possible. But all you've got to do is stay at home, keep your hands clean, keep your nose clean, keep your mouth shut, watch a few films, watch a few fights of mine if you want, and have a good old time chatting to your mates on social media. It ain't hard. And then, when all this is over, we're going to nip down that pub. We're going to order around. We're going to neck a few beers. And we're going to all have a proper naughty time.
Hello, my name is Darcy Stone, and on the last episode in Malik's Mysteries, I asked you, is Malik, the heavy hitter, afraid of ghosts? Now, most of you came back and said that you thought it was true, and I can now reveal that it is true. Malik is afraid of ghosts, and he will definitely deny this, but I can confirm it's true. So well done to everyone who got the right answer.
Let's now talk a little bit about the baby, I guess, of Lucha. So the London School of Lucha Libre, which you founded, when was that? That was 2010, maybe? Something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I've done my research. Can you tell?
I hate talking to journalists or doing interviews or articles with people, and they've done no research, and it's like they start asking you questions that you're just like, really? You're asking me that? Surely you know. You cannot be.
Worst.
Yeah.
Like, well, I've got it written here as 2010, but I was struggling there because you weren't responding straight away. I was like, oh shit, have I done this wrong? Yeah, no. So you started up the school in. Pardon?
Just gonna leave you hanging there, kid.
Yeah, you just left me, mate. You just left me hanging out to dry. But yeah, so you started the school back in 2010 with old Mr. Barrage.
Yes.
Gregory Burridge. So what was, like, obviously you said earlier that you guys trained a bit together and stuff. So what was the mindset behind, were you guys already doing a lot of stuff together before the school, or was there a specific reason that you went with Greg to open up the school with, or I don't know, like, what was the story behind that?
Greg had already had his own wrestling school, and Greg's a really, really gifted studier of things. He can look at something and his mind can go, oh yeah, I can see how that works, and then he can kind of repeat it. It's like absorbed through the eye, goes in the brains, and it comes out of his limbs. He's incredible, and he's got incredible technique on submission stuff and psychology. He's just a really good all-rounder. Plus, he was one of the few wrestlers who actually in the mid 2000s was making a living being a professional wrestler in the UK.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding the people who were on the holiday camp stuff and the what's it called? It's gone blank again. The All-Star.
Oh, the tribute shows.
Not the tribute shows, but the All-Star wrestling that
just like the Butlins runs.
Yes, yeah, that sort of stuff. There was people that were good, like Jodie Fleisch and Johnny Storm, who were really good and made a career of it. And again, you look at them and you go, how are these guys not in the Hall of Fame already? They were brilliant and they were pushing the boundaries and doing stuff. And Greg's one of those people as well. He was doing Lucha Libre stuff before anyone knew in the UK what Lucha Libre was as well. And he was a bigger guy. And we just come together on, a meeting of minds and just knowing that we both had the same passion for what we were doing and what we wanted to do. Both had the same passion, the same vision. So we just did it. Why not?
Yeah, and I mean, it's been going strong ever since. Like, again, Britannia's been going for well over 10 years. The school now, if started in 2010, it's now 2020, so that's another 10 years just there. So, yeah, and like the list of people as well that have come through. It wasn't actually until fairly recent, like pretty much when I started this podcast, because, I mean, I obviously I know most of the people that have come through Lucha, but it's not until you kind of like actually write the names down that you realize, oh man, we've had a lot of like really, really, really good wrestlers, and like not even just that they're really good, but people who have gone on to do some like amazing stuff. So like for you, like who obviously, again, we've said his name so many times already, but like obviously Will's like the number one guy, or one of the number one guys for sure. But like who are you like?
I tell you,
you tip your hat to quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm really proud of Nina Samuels.
Yeah,
super proud of her. She came into wrestling with no idea about it other than being a fan and used to watch it with her brothers. Her older brothers made her watch it, so she kind of by default liked wrestling, but she'd never done anything. She was a dancer before, and I don't know how like the timeline here, but she got really good really quick, and she just trained, absorbed. She's really nice, really lovely human being, and she just wanted to better herself and absorb and become good. And as a teacher, if you're teaching something and you've got students that are that good at learning, it makes your job as a teacher so much easier and so much nicer. And then it's like, she should be a bigger star than she is, because she's a very, very good wrestler. As when she was Diablessa Rossa in the Pink Devil in Lucha Britannia, she's a 4-time Lucha Britannia world champion. Now that doesn't happen lightly,
No, absolutely, and yeah, I completely agree. Like, I think I was there. I think me and her actually started at the school around the same sort of time frame, and yeah, I've seen her kind of like rise up, and yeah, she's doing unbelievable stuff right now.
But you've been wrestling for a little while longer.
Yeah.
And she's a 4-time champion and you're not. So,
Well, I'm not on the shows, mate. You don't book me.
I'm just saying.
Fabe K, mate. Fabe K. But yeah, no, like again, like I completely agree with you on that. Like,
there's people that that I trained with, and we all helped each other. Like back in the day when we were like, I had my music studios and I had access to other buildings, and I'd got a ring, so that we'd just get together and we'd help each other. It was like it was sort of schooling each other with wrestling practice, and that's why the group of people that became good, and there's like Paul Rumson, Charles Samuels, Marty Skull, etc. We all got good together because we all helped each other and we all learned from each other. Being older than them, I had different skills and different things from my martial arts and from from acting and being a performer on stage and doing music. So I had like things to teach them. They were doing backyarding stuff, so they had things to teach me. And then we'd watch stuff over and over again on like play, rewind, and just work out where the footing was and bits and pieces just to get it right. We had Tony Scarlo teaching us, and Alex Shane would come down to my music studios. It's like, oh, you're doing a little session. Yeah, we'll do some mat work. We'd come down. There'd be 4 or 5 of us before my music studios was booked. And then we'd just mat wrestle with each other and learn the things, and then try and go, well, I saw this thing on this VHS tape from Japan, blah, 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 blah. Let's try that. How are they doing that? How's that work? God, that looks like it kills you. How are they doing it? It's not killing you. We'd just decode it and go over it and over and over it. So there was a lot of like good stuff that we're doing pre-London School Lucha Libre that helped with the whole scene and helped with the whole building of the new Brit scene.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, like, I think that translates to kind of the way you guys, like you and Greg, train us lot now, and like even the newer guys coming up, like you can see it where as you're coming up at Lucha with the crop of guys that you're coming up with, you do see that a lot. Like groups of people will get in the ring and like, it's like, oh, I saw this recently. Why don't we try this? And then blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think that kind of, comes through from what you were just saying there.
Yeah, it's peer-to-peer stuff where you learn from each other. But because I'd been a sports professional early on and got lots of coaching awards when I was still in my teens, I have a more structured grounding in stuff. So that's how Greg and I developed. Like Greg and I have learned a lot from each other, and we still learn stuff. You can learn something from someone who knows nothing.
Of course, yeah, and I think that comes across, like, again, through Lucha and through the school, you can learn from literally everyone in there, because there's so many different levels and styles, and you get people in there who are training that have either been watching wrestling since they were a kid and, oh my God, it's my dream to be a wrestler. But then on the opposite end of that, you do get a lot of people come through the school at Lucha who just literally saw some wrestling and went, oh, I'd like to give that a go. I'm an athlete. And then again, on the complete other end of that, you get people who have never watched wrestling, not even a fan of wrestling, but they're like, oh, I just fancy trying out a new hobby.
Yeah. It looked fun. It was in, time out. It looked like a good way to keep fit that wasn't boring. And then, 2 years later, they're doing shows and they're signing autographs.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's crazy. So in terms of training stuff, like
talk about equality as well. Just
pardon?
Equality.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And just treating everybody the same and not having any boundaries on race, gender, color, creed, etc. And just, we genuinely, if someone wants to learn, we will teach them to the best of our ability, and we'll give them the best possible setting, hopefully, that they can be nurtured from and grow from and get what they want to get out of it. Yeah. And that's what Greg and I we've kept to that ethos, like from day one. And that's what was a little bit different, whereas the British wrestling scene was a little bit like territorial and a little bit hard and a little bit like, you learn the hard way, and it's like, if you go there, you can't go here, and if I don't like him, so you can't do this, that kind of stuff. Now it's like we all help each other, everybody helps each other, we're all in it together. We've all created a scene, an actual good British wrestling scene that's better than the one before.
No, for sure. I'd like to add to that as well, in terms of like the equality thing. Like, I think one of the beautiful things about Lucha as a whole would be that, like you said, people, like, no one isn't accepted. Everyone's given a chance. Like, you're used based on you as a person, not where you're from, what gender you are, nothing like that. So it's like, I think, again, like to go back to Nina Samuels for a minute, like she's a 4-time Lucha Britannia champion, but it's not because she's a girl. It wasn't a case of, oh, we need a girl to be champion. It's because she's just awesome, and she just, she worked, she busted her ass, and she's a hard worker, and she deserved it.
Yeah, she became champion because her storytelling led it that way, and the crowd responded in that way, and she earned that. It doesn't matter that it's a she. The pronoun doesn't matter. It's the individual and the character, the connection, the ability, and where they go. And obviously, we only have 4 matches on a show, so it's difficult to get everybody on. And there's a lot of good people already on. And then I get emails from ex-WWE and ex-this and other people around the world, all really good, high-level indie workers that have got status that will come into England and want to be on the show. And it's like, sorry, there's no room for you.
Yeah.
So
one of the things I wanted to ask you, like going back to the school a little bit here, because we've talked about like what it, like why you started the school and like how it got started and all that. But one thing I got to ask because this is the sort of stuff that I just personally enjoy the most.
Yeah.
If you had to name like one thing that you've seen in the history of your time at school as just like one of the best bad things ever, like like the best botch you've ever seen at training, what would you go with? You don't have to name names if you don't want to name and shame people, but just a moment that stands out.
No, I don't like botches. I don't like watching people foul. I don't like seeing people hurt themselves. The whole point of what Greg and I do is to teach you self-awareness and body awareness, so to protect yourself, because wrestling hurts, and long term it hurts. So you have to do damage limitation. So I don't even want to go there with talking about like botches and things like that, even like if they're funny at the time or whatever, because it's a negative thing that I don't like. I personally don't like it. I do not watch Botchamania. I don't like it.
No, that's fair enough. Fair dues. So moving on from that then.
Having said that,
go on.
Just Malik.
Just Malik, yeah?
Just Malik, yeah.
That's cool.
Just Malik, because you know.
That's the title of this episode. The title's just going to say, "This is Lucha Pod, Garry Vanderhorne," and then in brackets, "What's the best botch in wrestling, Malik?" It's a really long title, but it's worth it.
Malik is so good. He's another one that's just so great. It's like the world hasn't caught up to him yet, but hopefully it will. So sometimes the world just has to catch up to these people. It's not that they're not good, or it's not that they're not doing the right thing. It's just the world takes time to catch up, and the right stars have to be in the right alignment for things to happen.
Yeah. No. Sorry. No. Yeah. I completely agree with that. I think that's a fair assessment of Malik, to be fair. But it's fun to give him shit because he's Malik.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So, like, as we'll wrap things up a little bit here, but like the way I normally like to end this thing is a little bit of a word association game.
Wait a minute. I have to say, like, there's a couple of other people.
Well, funnily enough, that's kind of what I'm getting to, because so basically the end of the podcast, I'm going to give you some names now, and you just summarize them as best you can in like either a 1-word answer or a short sentence.
Hang on a second. Yeah, go on then.
You ready?
Yep.
All right, we'll start right at the bang and right at the top. Let's go. Greg Burridge.
Husband.
Beautiful. Juventud Guerrera.
He's a lad. He's full of love, full of goodness, good friend. I've learned a lot from him. He's been very, very, very generous and kind over the years, and has given a lot of time to us and our family in the school.
Cassandro El Exotico.
Another super, super legend. One of the greatest wrestlers in the world, in my opinion. One of the greatest performers. Can electrify a crowd. I don't know why Cassandro isn't again like a top Hall of Famer, because his work is phenomenal. An amazing ambassador, full of love, fearless, can still wrestle. He's older than me, and can still pull it out and wrestle like a demon. Absolutely brilliant. Just can't say enough good things.
Well, you've actually just brought me into the next person beautifully there. You said demon. Let's go, Blue Demon.
Blue Demon. I've met Blue Demon a couple of times. Great legacy, great honor with the mask and stuff. I don't know him personally so well, and I feel that there's been a bit of betrayal maybe in Mexico with Blue Demon and Delica de Santo.
Fair enough. Well, I'll give you one more Lucha legend before we move on to some of our own guys. Let's go with Dr. Wagner.
Dr. Wagner, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Another sort of, where you watch Dr. Wagner matches, a lesson in how to work, how to move, how to work a crowd. Just brilliant.
Will Ospreay.
Oh, Will. The Will Ospreay story is still being written, and I feel that this is just the beginning chapters of his life. Was he mid-20s now?
Mid to late 20s now.
There's a lot more story and a lot more lore and legend that's going to come from Will Ospreay.
Yep. Paul Robinson.
Another amazing, and has been amazing for many, many years. Been great for the last 15 years. Only recently getting the recognition he deserves. Fantastic performer, intensity, physicality, just brilliant. My history with Paul is long and storied, and I hope that he goes on to do bigger and better things as well.
Let's go with the East End Butcher, Shah Samuels.
Oh, Shah, the original Metallico. He was Metallico before Greg. Another sort of really good, really early on, has become better and better and better. One of the rare indie wrestlers that can promo and hold a crowd's attention without doing too much, without having to go crazy. Just again, sad that he hasn't got further quicker.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to move into some of our more guys who are with Lucha currently. So let's go.
I have to talk more about Greg, though.
Pardon?
Yeah, I have to talk more about Greg.
Oh, mate, you can talk about Greg for days. We can do more on Greg if you want.
He's like, he's so funny. He's so kind. He's so giving. People don't understand how much he gives to British wrestling and how much he's sacrificed. He's kind of almost sacrificed his own stardom as a wrestler to make way for other people.
Yeah,
like we call it an acquiescence of ego, and it's very difficult to do. It's very, very difficult, because the wrestler's ego is important, and everybody has to have an ego, and you have to know how to use that ego, and you have to balance between the id and the ego and know when to let the ego out of the box. And Greg is a phenomenal talent and could be a world-class wrestler. And he's kind of like gone, no, I'm going to give myself to the next lot and let them become that talent. He's brilliant.
I think Greg, for me, is one of the unsung heroes of British wrestling right now. Like, I think people are now starting to realize, like, oh my man, like, this guy's trained a lot of like really, really big names. And also, like, I think a lot of people have started going back as well. Like, it's one of them things. I think recently a lot of people have started going back and watching a lot of like old FWA stuff.
Yeah,
and they're seeing, oh man, Greg was there with Johnny, because everyone's been like, no, and rightfully so, everyone knows who Johnny and Jody are. But I think Greg kind of flew under the radar a little bit for a while. Like, a lot of people not forgot about him, but it was just everyone spoke so much about Johnny and Jody for so long, and Doug Williams as well as another one. That like a lot of guys kind of like, again, not got forgotten, but they just weren't as known as those guys to a degree. And I think now people are remembering, oh man, like Greg Burridge was there as well, and now he's like, look what he's done now. He's like helped bring up guys like a Will Ospreay or a Cara Noir or a Cassius or whoever, or a Nina Samuels, whoever it might be. And yeah, I think he's finally getting like some of that recognition that he definitely deserves.
Well, back in the day when it was very, very difficult to get into the WWE, Greg was almost in it twice. He had 2 tryouts, and one time the week before he tore his ACL and meniscus, so he couldn't do the tryout. And then when he got better and he had his next tryout, the people that were in charge all got fired, and the whole people that were going to get tryouts got dropped. So he had 2 kind of very unfortunate, nothing to do with his ability or skill kind of things that led him to not getting in the WWE back way before the Performance Center, probably like 2007, 2008 sort of time. And I'm sure had he not torn his knee out, I'm sure he would have got in, and he would have been a big star.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's hard to look back on stuff and think of what could have been, but yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think Greg he'd have smashed it in the WWE because he's such a character as well, which is what they obviously love. So, but he's gone on to do some amazing stuff either way. So
that's the thing. Life, you can plan your life out; it never goes to plan, and then things happen and spin you down different paths. And those paths, you end up somewhere where you actually is better than where you thought you were going to be, because you end up getting a different kind of satisfaction from it. And Greg studies hard and learns and continues pushing the boundaries and continues doing, and he works hard. And the movie stuff that he's done and that we're doing is just, he's doing things the long, hard way. That's the only way we know how to do it. We do things the long, hard way so that you don't have to do things the long, hard way.
Yeah.
So we shortcut your time to get to where you want to get to.
Yeah. No, I think that's really cool. I mean, we could do a whole podcast just on Greg Burridge, to be fair. There's so much, but I'm going to get him on here at some point as well, and I'm sure he'll return the favour and put you over.
Yeah, well, it's not about putting over.
No, I know. I'm joking, but no, I'm saying though, he's done so much for wrestling, and like you have as well, and like just there's a lot of unsung heroes in wrestling who don't necessarily, but it's a case of, it's not so much that you guys want someone to say, I'll pat you on the back and say, oh, well done. It's more just, it's nice. I think it's just one of those things where it's like, it's nice to know that people do recognize it.
Yeah, it is nice. It's nice to get the recognition. There's people like Dean Allmark, who I'm not friends with. I know him, but I think he's a phenomenal talent. I think he's consistently for 15 years done great work and has helped a load of people as well.
Yeah, and he's now starting. He's getting a lot of recognition currently, like especially in the past few months. He started getting out there actually recently, and a lot of indie shows, and people are remembering, oh man, this guy's phenomenal, and everyone else is saying, yeah, I know, we've all known this for years. Like he's been phenomenal for years.
I say I have no contact with him or stuff like that, just like we follow each other on social media, and I've met him a couple of times, so there's no I just think that he's one of these people, perhaps like me and Greg, that's done a lot of good stuff and hasn't got the recognition for it.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And also, Alex Shane as well. Alex has done a tremendous amount behind the scenes of British wrestling in the last 10 years alone, regardless of the stuff that he did before with FWA, etc., etc. But he's been tirelessly working and trying to make things better for British wrestling and British wrestlers, which is really good. And he doesn't, he doesn't get any recognition.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Alex is, again, one of those people who has been around for so long, and just people seem to forget and not give that adulation where it's due. But yeah, 100%. Because I think it's because a lot of the time, it's a lot of the stuff he does is behind the scenes as well. People forget that side of things sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, I agree.
Up in Norwich, the Knights continually doing good stuff.
Yep.
That just like wrestling, you cut them in half. There's wrestling right through their body. They live it and breathe it, and it's the most important thing in the world. And they're doing great stuff as well. They don't get the recognition they deserve. And there's a few people dotted around the country that are in their own little areas that really have the heart and passion and that are helping other people, and that's the main thing, and that creates British wrestling history, because you're helping the industry, you're making the industry continue moving, you're creating artists who are going on to become great performers. People like Dominator down in Hastings is doing some really good stuff. Tanya and Stu down there. There's people up and down the country, and like it used to be, like the north of England was the good spot, the hub of great wrestling in Britain, but now the whole of Britain is good.
No, I think it's translated now to the entire country. Like the north has its like standout sort of areas and people and places, and then the south has its own as well, but overall, like the whole scene's thriving, which is what you want at the end of the day.
It
just benefits everybody.
It's good. The more that people support each other and don't try to rip each other off, and just acknowledge each other's goodness, it's a good thing, and it self-regulates, and it's nice.
Absolutely. So going back to the game slightly, the bit of word association, I'm going to give you now some people from our current crop of Lucha Rings. Is that a word? Lucha Rings? It is now. So let's go with Cara Noir. Hawkins.
Just the super exciting. Every match is going to be different, and you're going to get a lesson in storytelling.
Cassius.
Just an explosion of character, an explosion of the underdog. Just excellent, and a point of call that anyone should see. Cassius matches should be the thing that anybody who hasn't seen wrestling, they should go and see a Cassius match.
We've spoken about her quite heavily already, but let's go for a quick summary on Nina Samuels.
Nina Samuels, Diablessa Rossa. Hopefully she's going to become a really big superstar, because she has all the right skills to do so. She's brilliant, hardworking, great performer, and she's in the UK WWE NXT right now. Mm-hmm. And let's hope that she can create and go on to do bigger and better things.
Jimmy Havoc. That's a past Lucha one, but I forgot him earlier, so I'm gonna throw him in there now.
Jimmy, I was so happy when Jimmy signed to AEW and started. The last few years, his momentum's picked up, and he's such a good performer, such a good wrestler. And if you want to go out and have an after wrestling show night out, Jimmy's the man to go with, because you will have laughs galore. And it's just like, he's one of these people that I bet you there's a lot of people in his past that were like, you're never going to do anything. You're never going to amount to nothing. What are you wasting your time doing? And he's just sitting there grinning, going, fuck you, bastard.
Jimmy's the best. He's such a nice guy as well.
So happy that he was like there. I was like, nearly crying. Jimmy, you've done it. Yes.
Okay, let's go with Big John Fug.
Oh, Johnny boy. The Great White Hope. Do you know what? He's nearly 7 feet tall, of brute force and ignorance. He's just lovely. He's like the friendliest giant, the nicest man, great storyteller. Like sometimes having a good job and a family can stop you becoming a WWE superstar.
Well, speaking of giants, let's go with Santeria. I think his entrance music is probably my favourite in Lucha.
That gives people the willies. That does.
It's great.
Santeria. He's Sam Gardner. Again, one of the most underrated wrestlers in the country. Amazing pacing and psychology, storytelling, character. He's like a giant bumblebee, you know, that they shouldn't be able to fly, but they can, and they defy logic and gravity and physics. He's like that.
It's funny actually because I asked both Ospreay and Dawkins to summarize him, and both of them pretty much said the same thing, and the answer was giving. Like for such a big dude, like he would do so much to help get them over, which was just like, yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, he understands the job. He understands what his part in the play is, and fulfills it perfectly. It's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And of course, he's got because Santeria doesn't talk. He has K-Rod now as his kind of.
You stole my hot tag. I was going to throw K-Rod in next.
I know. Yeah, I see what you see. Yeah, K-Rod has an immense brain for wrestling and character stuff, and he really like lives and breathes the character. He's got delved into the whole thing. He makes it like so much more scary. You've got like this. It's really like that part of the show and what they do satiates that kind of old school, late 80s, early 90s WWF
kind of like an Undertaker, Paul Bearer vibe, but a bit more modernized.
Yeah, modernized, but even a bit more edgy and a bit scarier. It's a bit more like, because it's Santeria. It's actually like a voodoo religion, and he's doing it, and he's invoking spirits, and he's got blood dripping from his mouth, and then Santeria gives someone a giant shoe-in, and then K-Rod comes in and gives him a kick-in, and it's great. It's just so good.
Let's go for Jerry Bakewell.
Oh, Jerry Bakewell. Another character that you couldn't make up, but you did. You know what I mean? It's like, this shouldn't work, but it does, and it works so well. He's a comedy genius. He's a big lad. He understands, timing so well. Timing is everything in wrestling, and the timing of that guy is phenomenal. And he's just he could come on and wrestle a 5-star Meltzer match, or he could come on and do 3 moves and just say silly things to the audience, and you're going to get the same response.
Yeah, I think I've said for a while now, I think Jerry and Fug are probably the two of the most underrated and like wrestlers I've ever seen.
It's difficult because we've got so many good people coming up through the ranks. The British wrestling scene now is filled with great people. Our school alone is filled with great people. The London Lucha League is filled with great people. It's like dead man's shoes now. How do I swap out one of these great people to give someone else a chance?
Yeah, no, I agree. I just mean in terms of just like from a worker standpoint. I just like, you look at them and like compare them to like a lot of guys on the British wrestling scene right now. I just look at them and I'm like, man, you guys could easily like kill it with most of these people and probably be better than a lot of people as well. Like my personal take.
Well, when I do see other people's shows, I look at it and there's some really fantastic wrestlers on there, but they're all in the same kind of ballpark. They're all in the same kind of look and the same kind of gimmick and the same kind of ring gear. And it just becomes 9 matches of the same match with different humans occupying it. And that doesn't excite me. And it doesn't matter how good any one of them is or may be. I'm not seeing it anymore because I'm snowblind to the fact that there's not a diverse range of characters or a diverse range of sizes and bodies. So, it's like if you like roast beef, are you just going to eat a dinner full of roast beef and go, yeah, I fancy having some more roast beef. Give me another plate of roast beef. Do you want some potatoes or gravy with that? Nope, just give me the roast beef. All right. And you eat that and you go, do you know what? Do you want some dessert now and some donuts or some sprinkles? No. Give me another plate of roast beef. Give me another plate of roast beef. And that's how I feel a lot of wrestling goes now. It's like, I want diversity. I want to see characters. I want to see different stories.
You want potatoes. You want gravy. You want your veg. You want your banoffee pie for pudding.
I want Yorkshire pudding on it. I might even have a sausage in my Yorkshire pudding as well. Why not?
You greedy bastard.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
No, I get you. I know exactly what you mean, and yeah, there is a lot of that unfortunately right now. But I think we are coming to a time. I think a lot of people are slowly, steadily, but surely realizing like it is character and like something to stand out that will get you more notice than generic wrestler number 3.
Yeah.
But anyway, a couple more names for you just as we finish up here. So let's go for, again, I mean, we touched on him very briefly, but let's go for Malik.
Malik. He's turned himself into a really great wrestler. Really, really good. When I'm teaching now and I want to, not that I do much stuff, like crazy stuff anymore, but if I want to do something crazy, I feel safe to do it with Malik. And I know that he's going to base me. I know that he's not going to drop me. If I'm like messing around doing stuff, I'll do stuff like that with you as well. There's a few people that I feel wholly confident in breaking out, busting out my good shit with if I need to demonstrate stuff. And it's that, for someone to instill that confidence in me is really important. Does that make sense?
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Because I'm fed up of hurting myself. So,
no, for sure.
if you're trying to do something that maybe you haven't done for a few years, or you're a bit rusty on and stuff like that, I need to know that someone is not gonna drop me.
Yeah. No, I completely get that.
I get very upset if we're doing high spots and catches and dives and things, and people drop each other. No matter what, you got to look after your opponent and make sure, especially in training, that you don't. You don't hurt them. So that on a personal level, that with Malik, with me, he's really nice. He's a great human being. I just hope that he becomes a superstar because he deserves it.
How about everyone's favorite El Rey Anansi, aka Buffalo Soldier?
Anansi. He's great, and what a connection! You see the guy's facials when he's selling. He takes a bump and he stood up and he opens his eye. He's our Kofi Kingston. He's brilliant, super lovely, just very giving. Needs to put on some muscle, as do quite a few people. Really, people need to understand that wrestling hurts and muscle protects you. The more muscle you got, the less it hurts and the quicker you repair. So there's some people need to put on weight. He's one of them. He's someone that needs to put on a little bit of
mass.
Yeah, as does Cassius. I think Cassius needs to put on a bit.
What about the Brothers of Seduction, Bowman and Bobby Champagne Jr.?
They're getting better and better and better, funnier and funnier. Promos are great, off the charts, but Bo's coming into his own now. Ned just continues to surprise and impress me because he's not a spring chicken. He started late in life and he's overcome a lot of obstacles, and he has a real job and kids, and he still trains hard. He still works really hard. He's still trying new stuff out, and he gives a lot to wrestling. Gives a lot. Bo as well is his alter ego Il Piranha is another fan favorite. Just they're all like my family. They're like my children.
Yeah. Well, I got 2 more for you, and that's it for the game. So, second from last one, let's go for the current London Lucha League champion, Clementine.
Oh, Clementine. She's overcome a lot of personal problems and issues to be where she is, and it's phenomenal in the time that she's done it. It's incredible. It's like wrestling can change your life, and it's changed my life. It's changed your life, but sometimes it takes a slow, gradual change, and sometimes the wrestling change is profound. And with that woman's life change and her confidence and her ability is amazing, and she won the championship on the Sunday. She was back in there on the Monday training going, I messed this up. I need to do that better. I need to do that better. I need to do that better. How many people win a championship, one come into training the next day and say, I need to do this. I need to do that better.
Yeah.
She's a hard worker. She's repetition repeat, get better, get better, get better, get better. And she continues to get better. Absolutely great.
Cool. And then the final name, as is tradition on this game, purely because I'm an egotistical son of a bitch. So Kosta.K.
Kosta.K, I've never heard of him.
Oh, well, okay. Well, we're going to edit that out.
Who?
Cheeky git. I tell you what. I've got two more names actually that I can't believe I've actually forgotten these. So the first one, I better say it because she's the co-host of this podcast, and that's Darcy Stone.
Darcy, yay! She's a firecracker. She's great. Been injured. Another one that's like just the learning rate. It just amazes me the rate that people are getting good and the rate that people are taking in information and repeating it and getting better and better. And it's a shame she got sidelined a bit, but I'm sure she's going to come back stronger than ever. She's got great personality, really good on camera, really good on the mic. And it's, again, repetition. The more you do it, the better you get. The more you do it, the better you get. Training.
Absolutely. And then the last name, here it is, Hombre del Roca.
Hombre. And no lucha for you.
No lucha for you. That's it. That's all you need for him, to be honest. That's it. So that's the best summary you can give for Hombre del Roca. No lucha for you.
Hombre del Roca is, it's the man of rock. He is the guy encapsulates the ego and the arrogance of someone who is brilliant, knows they're brilliant, and can't be bothered to show you how brilliant they are.
Okay.
This Kosta guy. Let me tell you about him. He's someone that I think is going to be running things in British wrestling in the next few years. I think he's going to be spreading his wings a bit, putting his tendrils out and his tentacles out in lots of different things, trying to get a grip on what's happening, trying to find the trends of where they're going, but then helping other people come up through the ranks as well. I think he's going to become a pivotal character in the next part of the growth of what we're all doing together.
Bless you. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you. Oh, hang on, lost my headphone there. Well, that's the end of that game. But I appreciate those very nice words. I'm sure everyone else will as well. One final thing before we. Sorry, go on.
There's plenty of people that we've left
out.
Oh
yeah, there's so many. But obviously, if we were to do everyone, we'd be here all day. But me and you can do another podcast another time anyway, because there's so much that we haven't even touched on yet, but we can and will at some point. But for now,
for my role in doing stuff as I've been resting and taking things. I've got a bad neck injury that's not going to go away. So I can do some pretty great things, but just because I can, don't mean I should. And part of my learning experience is knowing when to and when not to, and not letting my ego get out of control. And then, because I'm no good to anybody broken.
Yeah.
So I can only help people if I'm in good shape and if I'm in good mental and physical shape. But one of the things that I like to tell people now is to think about the time between 1 and 2. The time between the milliseconds. Yeah. The people that are involved in music will understand milliseconds a little bit easier. But being in the moment and understanding the moment and taking in that information for the moment, that stillness and holding it, it's like playing with time. And it's the really, really good wrestlers, the great wrestlers in the world, they play with time. They're time travelers.
Yeah.
Will Ospreay hangs in the air. Paul Robinson hangs in the air because they're playing with time. They're doing something metaphysical with time that's allowing your eyes to see how great it is. And a lot of people are at a stage in wrestling that I see where they're doing everything far too quickly, far too rushed, far too mechanically, and they're not letting anything breathe, and they're just getting through it, just trying to get through it. And it's like, breathe, learn about stillness, learn about timing, learn about the 1 and 2 and 3. There's big gaps between the and. That's a long time. 1 second is a long time. Learn to be in those seconds. And that's when you go from being a good wrestler to being a great wrestler.
And that right there is a beautiful piece of advice that anyone can listen to this and take away from it. And, you know, hopefully they do. So, like, just one final thing before we, like, as we look to wrap this up now. I know Darcy's been, I mean, she's been plugging it for you as well on the podcast, but the Lucha t-shirts are still actually available online that people can buy, which I know the money from that's going towards keeping the Res Gal, you know, going and stuff. So don't know if you wanted to, like, I thought we'd just give a little shout out to the t-shirts and stuff.
On the gear, get on the gear.
Get on the gear.
Get on the gear, everyone. It's fantastic what they've done. Really, really kind. Most people, I would say, are in this position where nobody is earning any money and everything's hanging by a fingernail. Hopefully we can weather the storm and get through it, but you know, it's just everybody supporting everybody, people that can, that still do have an income. It's great that they can help support other people that don't.
Yeah, I believe, from what she's been telling me as well, the t-shirts have done really well, and so, you know, yeah, that's amazing. So thanks to everyone who has bought one, and you know,
yeah, big love to them. Thanks very much.
Yeah, and big love to you, mate. You know, hopefully we come out of this thing soon, and we're back in the gallery doing Lucha Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Lucha every day.
Yep, and partying. I want to see some partying going on.
Well, that's it. That's the aim. The aim is to hopefully get out of this and we can all party and just forget about the craziness that was lockdown 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big love. Peace.
Much love, mate. Thanks for doing this, and I will speak to you soon.
Love. Bye.
Yeah, mate.
Well, there you have it, guys. I hope you all enjoyed that chat with the founder of Lucha in London, Garry Vanderhorne. Join us next week when Kosta will be talking with none other than the current Rev Pro champ, New Japan star and Lucha alumni, Will Ospreay. My name is Darcy Stone. This is Lucha Pod, and we will see you next week.